Welcome back, friends. Today we're escaping the summer heat with one of the simplest and happiest treats you can make in a mountain village. Homemade fruit ice cream. Fresh fruit, a few simple ingredients, and a little patience are all it takes to turn an ordinary afternoon into something the whole family remembers. My wife is carefully rinsing the oranges under cold water like it's a tiny ritual. In the village, nobody rushes this part. Fruit gets washed slowly, almost respectfully, because everyone knows the flavor starts way before cooking. If you're enjoying this little mountain kitchen moment, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More simple village recipes, real family cooking, and summer treats are coming your way. Nothing fancy, just honest food from our table to yours. I'm quickly cutting the oranges in half, so they'll be easier to press later under the old kitchen press. At the same time, my wife is washing strawberries, carefully picking through them one by one, like she's choosing the best stories from the garden. Actually, the idea of squeezing liquid out of food isn't new at all. People have been doing it for thousands of years, long before anyone called it juice. In ancient times, it was mostly practical. If fruit was too ripe or too soft, you didn't throw it away, you pressed it. Nothing fancy, just survival logic that somehow turned into what we drink today. If you're into cozy handmade things or simple kitchen tools that actually make cooking feel easier, you can check out our online shop. It's got a big mix of small, useful stuff, just those little things that somehow make your kitchen feel more alive and a bit more you. In the ancient Mediterranean world, people already mixed crushed fruit with water, honey, and herbs to make refreshing drinks. The Romans especially liked diluted fruit drinks during hot seasons, because straight water wasn't always safe everywhere. So juice was more like a clever way to make hydration taste better and feel safer. The real turning point for juice came when people started improving pressing techniques. At first, it was just hands and cloth, then simple wooden presses, and later mechanical ones. Wine presses actually played a big role here. Same idea, just applied to fruit instead of grapes. And once you can extract more liquid efficiently, everything changes. Storage, trade, even how families used fruit at home. It stops being eat it now or lose it and becomes something you can prepare. There's also this interesting historical connection between juice and medicine. In different cultures, fruit extracts were often used for digestion, fever, or general weakness, even if they didn't fully understand why it worked. Later, in the 1700s, doctors like James Lind showed that citrus juice helped sailors with scurvy, which pushed naval fleets to carry juice or citrus supplies on long voyages. So something that feels like a kitchen thing today was literally part of survival at sea. As trade expanded, juice became less about necessity and more about comfort. In European aristocratic houses, fruit drinks were often sweetened and served chilled when possible, which was a big deal before refrigeration existed. Ice itself was expensive, sometimes stored from winter or brought from mountains. So a cold drink used to be a kind of luxury moment, not just something you grab from the fridge without thinking. Then, industrial food production completely changed the game. Pasteurization made by Louis Pasteur allowed liquids like juice to be stored safely without spoiling immediately. After that, juice stopped being strictly seasonal and local. It could be bottled, transported, sold in cities far from where the fruit was grown. That's when juice became a product instead of just a kitchen process, which honestly feels a bit less romantic, but much more practical. Historically, juice also played a role in social life, shared drinks at gatherings, family tables, celebrations. Even when sugar was expensive, people still found ways to make drinks feel special. And I think that's still true today. Juice is rarely just about thirst. It's about timing, company, and that small moment where everyone slows down for a second. And while I'm here grinding coffee, go ahead and follow us on Instagram. We post more behind the scenes, real family cooking, and all the messy in-between parts you don't always see here. Just look at this for a second. We've got orange juice, then that deep berry cherry one, and the strawberry batch sitting there like summer in different shades of color. It all started as just fruit on the table, and now it looks like we accidentally built a whole little juice factory in a mountain kitchen. Quick little pause here, just a coffee break in the middle of all this summer chaos. Everything's already set, the juices are resting, and for a second it's just quiet kitchen air, hot cups, and that feeling that nothing urgent exists right now except this sip of coffee. So now we're slowly moving into the ice cream part, but first, nuts. And honestly, people have been cracking, crushing, and eating nuts for thousands of years. Long before desserts even had names, nuts were just this easy, portable food people carried around on long journeys, especially around the Mediterranean. No packaging, no rules, just this fits in your pocket so it goes with you. In ancient cultures across Europe and Asia, nuts were one of those stable foods you could store for a long time without them going bad quickly. That's why they kept showing up in early cooking traditions, not as decoration, but as survival food that slowly became part of meals. And at some point, people just realized, wait, this actually tastes good with sweet things too. In the Middle East, especially in early dessert traditions, people were already mixing crushed nuts with sweet syrups, fruit, and chilled or frozen mixtures. Some of the earliest cold desserts came from that region, using snow or ice stored from mountains. And nuts just naturally became part of it, because they added crunch to something that was otherwise soft and cold. By the time ice cream started spreading through Europe and later America, nuts became one of the easiest toppings to add. Not because someone invented it in a lab, but because people already had them in kitchens. You make something sweet and cold, you sprinkle something crunchy on top. It's basically human instinct at this point. What's interesting is how nuts change the whole experience of food. Without them, ice cream is soft and smooth, almost too calm. With them, you suddenly get this contrast: cold, creamy, crunchy. And that contrast is basically why people kept adding them for centuries without even thinking too deeply about it. While I'm here dealing with the ice for the ice cream, just a quick moment. If you're enjoying this whole kitchen flow, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There's more simple, real-life cooking coming, just like this, straight from our table. While I'm setting up this little mini grill for our birds, I will thread pieces of fruit onto these small sticks so they can eat them easily later. My wife is out there gathering flowers, totally quiet, like she's planning something in her head. So now she's taken this glass pitcher and she will decorate it with flowers. It reminds me how, for centuries, women's hobbies were basically anything done with hands at home, not called hobbies back then, just part of daily life. Sewing, weaving, embroidery, arranging things, all those quiet skills that lived in kitchens and living rooms.
gata-gata mo. Ay,
In many European homes, especially in earlier centuries, girls were taught embroidery and needlework from a young age, not just for decoration, but also as a way of learning patience and precision. Some of those old embroidered samplers even included letters and patterns, like a mix of learning tool and creative outlet at the same time. And I always imagine how much time that actually took. In aristocratic households, especially in places like Britain and France, fancy work became a whole thing later on. Delicate sewing, lace making, decorating fabrics. It was considered proper activity, something you did while talking, waiting, living your day. There's also this interesting parallel in other cultures. In Japan, for example, flower arrangement like ikebana developed as a very structured art form where placement, balance, and space all mattered deeply. It was almost like a quiet language. And here we are in a mountain kitchen, and somehow a glass pitcher is becoming part of that same idea, just in a more spontaneous way. I think what's funny is how these small handmade things always end up carrying more emotion than store-bought ones. A decorated jar, a stitched cloth, a little arrangement of flowers. They don't really need to exist, and maybe that's why they feel special. I really love spending time with our dogs like this. They don't ask for anything complicated, they just stay close, follow you around, and somehow make everything feel calmer. So this is the moment we've all been waiting for, ice cream time. There's this old barrel-style machine here that slowly turns while packed with ice around it. And honestly, it already feels like something from another century. Kids are running around like it's some kind of festival, just waiting for that first spoon. And I get it, because ice cream always does that. Turns normal patience into complete chaos. The idea of ice cream actually goes way back. In ancient China, people were mixing snow or ice with rice and milk-like mixtures to create early frozen treats. It wasn't ice cream like we know it, but it was the same logic. Make something cold, sweet, and a little comforting in hot weather. And somehow that idea just kept traveling through time without ever really disappearing. In Europe, frozen desserts really started taking shape in Italy during the Renaissance. There are records of early versions of gelato being served in Italian courts and chefs experimenting with ice and salt to control freezing. It was very much a luxury thing at first, something for wealthy households and royal tables, not something you'd casually hand to kids in the yard like we do now. There's even this story connected to Catherine de' Medici's time in France. Italian dessert traditions reportedly moved with her influence when she married into the French royal family, helping popularize more refined, frozen desserts in French court culture. Over time, what was once elite slowly trickled into broader society, especially as ice storage techniques improved. Finally, this is that moment, everyone together tasting the ice cream at the same time. No waiting, no watching, just spoons going in, and that first quiet second when nobody says anything because it actually turned out better than expected. Before everything disappears into ice cream chaos, just a quick note. If you're enjoying these little moments from our kitchen and garden, go follow us on Instagram. My wife just took the girls outside to teach them how to make bubbles, and honestly, that feels like the most normal and perfect ending to this kind of day. The kind of simple game that doesn't need instructions, just soap, air, and a lot of laughing when the bubbles don't cooperate. And somehow it always turns into a competition nobody admits is happening.
Şimdi götürün bundan tökün. Sen o sabundan tök. Karıştır. Sen karıştır. Ha.
İkinci sabun.
Thank you so much for watching and spending this time with us. From juice to ice cream to bubbles in the yard. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Probably with another messy kitchen, another story.
Oh, okay, Vay vay. Biraz oynayayım mı?
Today we're making sweet strawberry jam with a stone press. The ancient village method that turns a simple fruit into something that carries a whole season inside it. Before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed and part of this little kitchen circle, because here we don't just cook, we keep traditions alive. Right now, we're washing all these strawberries in the river, just like it was done generations ago. Before indoor plumbing, the river was the village kitchen sink. The steady current rinses away dust and tiny insects gently, without bruising the fruit. And the cold water helps the berries stay firm, which really matters before they hit the heat. And there's one more reason, that natural cold slows everything down. Before sugar goes in, strawberries can start softening quickly. The chill of the river keeps them fresh a little longer, buying you time. Now I spread the strawberries out and let them rest for a while, just letting them air dry. After river washing, this step is important. Excess water can dilute the natural flavor when cooking. I'm already preparing the firewood. The goal is a steady, gentle flame, not too wild, not too weak, because jam likes slow heat. We start pressing the strawberries using the stone press. This tool is surprisingly ancient. Similar crushing methods were used long before modern kitchens existed. People in rural communities pressed fruits and grains with stone weights because it preserved flavor and texture better than early metal tools. Stone pressing comes from a time when food preparation was part of daily survival. Slow mechanical pressure released juice without heating the fruit. That meant vitamins and natural sweetness stayed inside the mixture longer. Strawberry jam has a surprisingly long history. People started preserving berries long before refrigeration existed. The main reason was simple. Summer fruit spoiled quickly, so villagers learned to cook berries with sugar or honey to keep them edible through winter. What we call dessert today once meant survival and preparation for cold months. In medieval Europe, strawberry preserves were considered luxury food. Sugar itself was rare and expensive, so jam was mostly found in noble houses and royal kitchens. Ordinary families often used honey or cooked berries slowly to concentrate natural sweetness. Some historical records show that early strawberry preservation methods appeared in monastery kitchens. Monks were among the best experimenters in food storage because they needed long-lasting supplies. They dried fruits, boiled berries, and stored them in sealed jars long before modern canning technology existed. Royal families in France and England loved berry preserves. Strawberry jam was sometimes served with soft breads or pastries during morning meals. For kings and queens, it was a small luxury. Something sweet, but not overwhelming. Something gentle enough for long conversations at the table. There's an interesting story that in some European courts, strawberry preserves were considered almost romantic food. Because strawberries were associated with summer and freshness, they were often given as small gifts during courtly gatherings, symbolizing warmth and subtle affection. By the way, if you ever need good kitchen knives, check our online store. We have a wide selection of quality knives made for real cooking, not just for show. Interestingly, strawberry jam became more popular only after sugar production expanded in the 17th and 18th centuries. When sugar became slightly more accessible, berry preservation moved from elite tables to village kitchens, slowly becoming family food. Before glass jars became common, people stored jam in ceramic pots or animal skin containers coated with fat. Sealing food was an art. If air entered, the winter supply could be lost. So preservation was both science and daily survival knowledge. Strawberries themselves have symbolic meaning in many European traditions. Because the fruit grows close to the ground but carries bright red color, it was sometimes associated with both humility and vitality, something simple but emotionally powerful. My wife has already poured the jam into jars. She always keeps a little bit aside, just enough for today's dessert. It's a small but meaningful tradition in our house. The first taste is usually warm, fresh from the pot. She places small pieces of burlap cloth on top of the jar lids and ties them with string. The cloth lets tiny amounts of air pass while protecting the jam from dust, helping the preserve breathe slowly while it settles after cooking. I went to collect some fresh grass to feed our cow while my wife finished the jam. If you enjoy these old village cooking stories, follow us on Instagram. We share more traditions, food history, and real kitchen life from the past. Now my wife is preparing dough for strawberry rolls. She really enjoys making desserts, not because it's complicated, but because baking feels calm to her. She says dessert cooking is different from regular cooking. She likes working with dough because it responds to your hands. If the dough feels tired, she adds a little patience. If it's sticky, she adds a little flour. It's almost like conversation. It's time to take a little break and spend a moment with this kitten. After cooking and working with dough and berries, simple, quiet time feels good. My wife really loves taking care of our animals. Right now, she is gently cleaning the kitten's eyes. Small caring actions like this are important because young animals cannot clean themselves properly. If you like this village cooking and slow life story, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next video. We are coming back to making strawberry rolls. The dough is divided into small pieces and rolled out carefully. Strawberry rolls became popular because people loved combining soft bread texture with natural fruit sweetness. The idea of fruit rolls appears in many European baking traditions. Farmers' families often baked them during harvest season because berries were already available. Strawberries were especially loved because their natural acidity balances sweet dough, creating a taste that feels light rather than heavy. Meanwhile, I'm turning the dried strawberries. If you leave them only on one side, moisture can stay trapped inside the fruit, and that can spoil the texture or even shorten storage time. I'm going to fetch some water from the well for tea. We believe that natural underground water has a cleaner, softer taste. My wife is now whisking egg yolks. These will be brushed onto the rolls before baking. Egg yolk glazing is an old baking trick that gives bread a golden, shiny surface when it meets oven heat. If you like these village cooking stories and slow family life moments, follow us on Instagram for more. See you in the next kitchen story. Now my wife will make strawberry jelly from the remaining jam mixture. Jelly is actually one of the oldest ways to preserve fruit sweetness. People discovered that fruit juice mixed with natural thickening could turn into something soft, cold, and refreshing, especially during hot seasons. The idea of jelly-like desserts goes back centuries. In different cultures, people tried boiling fruit juice until it became thicker. Some used natural gelatin from animal bones, others used plant extracts. Modern jelly desserts are just a more convenient evolution of those old experiments. Strawberry jelly became popular because it is light and refreshing. Unlike heavy cakes, jelly feels simple. You can eat it after dinner without feeling tired. It's dessert, but not the kind that fights with your stomach after a long day. Let's gather the dried strawberries now. The rolls are ready too. Look at this golden crust. It's soft inside and slightly crispy outside. Finally, it's time to sit down and taste everything we made today. Jam, rolls, and simple homemade desserts are meant to be eaten slowly without rushing the moment. Thank you for watching our village cooking story. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us. See you in the next video. Take care, and remember, sometimes the best food is not complicated, just made with patience, warmth, and a little bit of home. Today we're baking a mountain of apples, About 100 sweet fruits inside a rustic oven, so stay with us.
Yavaş. Gel.
The morning starts quietly with our animals. Village life always begins slower, with animal sounds outside, and the feeling that nothing important should be rushed before breakfast or fire is ready.
Bas bas bas.
If you like these rustic, cooking and village life stories, subscribe to our channel for more slow, warm and simple moments from the countryside kitchen.
Tamam Melih. Daha yeni bir şey var.
Bitiyorsun.
Now we are going to wash this huge pile of apples. We rinse fruit gently without strong pressure so the skin stays intact and the natural aroma was preserved.
Hadi. Daha şimdi koştum ya.
Some of these apples will go to our horses for breakfast. Horses love sweet fruit as a small, natural treat. Let's light the rustic oven fire. The goal is not a big aggressive flame, just a steady, living fire that keeps heat gentle and stable. My wife is cutting apples slowly, almost thoughtfully. Baked apples have a very old history. Long before modern desserts, people simply placed whole fruits into hot stones or the ashes of a dying fire after cooking bread. It was practical cooking, something that turned harvest fruit into warm comfort food during long, cold evenings.
Tolong beli. Pati git pati. Sa. Sa. Sakit. Bah.
Ini sepatnya.
Salam beli. Pati git pati. Oi, salam beli. Bah.
Archaeologists actually found traces of ancient fruit baking in early European village settlements. People used clay ovens and residual heat after bread baking. The idea was simple but genius. You don't need a new fire, just use the warmth that already exists inside the stone oven.
Bomba.
In medieval times, baked apples were surprisingly loved in noble houses and royal kitchens. Fruit desserts were considered lighter and more elegant than heavy meat dishes during evening feasts. There is an interesting story that in some royal courts, apples were baked with honey, nuts, and exotic spices brought by trade caravans. Cinnamon was once extremely valuable, not just for cooking, but almost like luxury perfume for food, something that signaled wealth and distant lands. My wife adds only a little sugar, butter, and cinnamon inside each apple piece. She believes dessert should never fight the fruit itself. Instead, sweetness should sit quietly beside natural berry or apple flavor. Before sugar became widely available, sweetness itself was a luxury. People relied mostly on honey or natural fruit sugars. Dessert was seasonal, waiting quietly for harvest time to return. Now we are going to place apple halves on foil over this large multi-level rustic grill. Grilling apples this way is interesting because foil reflects heat evenly, helping fruit cook slowly from the bottom while keeping natural juice inside. Baked apples were sometimes called poor man's dessert in rural history, not because they were cheap in a bad way, but because they were accessible. Anyone with a fire and a few fruits could create something sweet without buying complex ingredients.
Bayağı güzelmiş be.
By the way, if you need good kitchen tools, you can check our online store. You'll find many useful things for cooking there, especially quality kitchen knives, the kind that make cutting fruit feel smooth and natural. The apples are now inside the tandoor. We cover them and let them cook slowly. My wife is now chopping dried apricots and prunes into small pieces. These dried fruits are going to become part of the apple filling later. Now it's time for the nuts. Nuts were historically important in traditional desserts because they provided energy and texture. Let's also prepare apple tea with cinnamon. Apple tea was actually popular in countryside homes because people used parts of fruit harvest that were too soft for storage. Instead of throwing apples away, they were boiled with spices, turning simple fruit into warm winter comfort. If you enjoy these village cooking stories, follow us on Instagram for more slow, warm, everyday kitchen life moments and traditional food history. Now we are quickly preparing duck with apples. Roasting duck with fruit has a very old culinary history. People used apples inside fatty meat dishes because the fruit's acidity helped balance the richness of duck fat, creating a deeper and more pleasant flavor during long cooking. In medieval Europe, duck with apples was often cooked during autumn harvest season. After field work was finished, families had more time to cook slowly. Duck meat was common on rural tables because ducks were easier to raise near rivers and didn't require large pastures like cattle. When duck cooks slowly, its fat melts and keeps meat moist. Apples inside the bird absorb some fat and transform it into soft, sweet juice. It's almost like the fruit and meat are talking quietly while heat slowly connects them. Well, it's time to take this grill out and check the apples. When apples cook inside heat like this, their natural sugar starts turning into gentle caramel notes, while the skin keeps a little structure so the fruit doesn't fall apart. Finally, it's time to taste everything. My wife is filling each baked apple with the mixture of nuts, dried apricots and prunes. I'm slowly drizzling a little honey on top because honey has always been the natural partner of baked fruit in traditional cooking. It really looks and smells amazing. The warm apple flesh, the nutty filling, and the slow honey shine on top make a simple countryside dessert feel special.
Şef tersi.
The duck is finally ready, so we take it out of the oven. Roasted duck should rest for a short moment after cooking because hot meat keeps internal steam. Let it breathe quietly after fire. Now it's time to taste. Having fresh greens on the table is always a good countryside habit because herbs balance the richness of roasted meat. And of course, some soft flatbread or lavash makes the meal feel more complete and honest.
Faraway.
Thank you for watching this cooking story. If you enjoy these slow village life moments, don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more traditional kitchen stories, food history, and simple cooking memories from the countryside. Take care and enjoy simple food that feels like home. Today we're going to make a special jam using fresh apples and walnuts. It's a cozy autumn treat that smells like warmth and family in every jar. While we're picking these fresh apples, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There's so much more to share, from garden harvests to homemade treats, all full of stories and love. Did you know that in history, apples were symbols of abundance and luck? Families would pick just enough for jam, pies, and preserves, and always leave a few on the tree, a tradition meant to ensure a good harvest next year. Some varieties of apples are so delicate that they must be picked by hand, carefully twisting each fruit from the branch. It's a slow, mindful process that connects you to nature in a very special way. I'm mowing down the ferns while the sunlight filters through the orchard. It's a little chore, but necessary, clearing the space so we can organize the harvest properly. My wife is busy in the kitchen washing the apples. She handles each one carefully, making sure they're clean and ready for the jam, like little treasures about to become something sweet. Here's a question for you, friends. What's your favorite way to enjoy apples? Do you prefer them fresh, baked into desserts, or turned into jam like we're doing today? You might wonder why I'm cutting down these ferns. Well, they're surprisingly useful around the house. In many rural traditions, ferns were used as natural bedding for animals or even to line storage bins. Fresh ferns can also act as a protective layer for fruits and vegetables, keeping them from bruising or touching the damp ground. It's a natural, eco-friendly way to preserve your harvest. Dried ferns can even be used for composting, adding nutrients back into the soil for next year's garden. Nothing goes to waste here. Every plant has a purpose. Let's talk a bit about apples. Apples have been part of human history for thousands of years. The Romans spread apples across Europe, introducing new varieties and techniques for preservation. They often baked them with honey or dried them to enjoy during winter months. In medieval Europe, apples were used not just for food but also for medicine. They believed that apples could cure a variety of ailments, from digestion issues to fevers. I still remember, as a child, my grandmother would hand me the smallest apples from the basket, saying, "These are for you, my little helper." That simple act made me feel like part of the harvest, part of something bigger. In some regions, apples were pickled or stored in barrels with straw to last through the winter. These methods were crucial before modern refrigeration. In Azerbaijan and the Middle East, apples were often cooked with nuts and honey, much like today's jam, creating a dessert that symbolized hospitality and the changing seasons. There's also folklore about apples. In many cultures, giving an apple was a gesture of love or friendship, and their presence in stories often represented knowledge or temptation. Meanwhile, my wife has already washed, peeled, and sliced the apples, then carefully covered them with a clean cloth. This helps protect them from dust and insects while allowing them to breathe, keeping them fresh for the jam. It's time to start cracking and peeling the walnuts. Every nut counts for our jam, so we take it slow and steady. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of our harvest and recipes. Meanwhile, I'm gathering this old samovar from the corner of the kitchen. It's a family heirloom, and soon it'll be boiling water for tea to enjoy with our fresh apple and walnut jam. Now let's move on to today's special dish, apple and walnut jam. This treat has been a staple in family kitchens for centuries, especially in autumn when apples are at their peak and walnuts are freshly harvested. Historically, jam was not just a dessert, it was a method of preservation. In times before refrigeration, turning fruits and nuts into jam allowed families to enjoy the harvest all winter long. In Azerbaijan and surrounding regions, combining apples with walnuts was popular because the nuts added texture and richness, making the jam both a treat and a source of energy during cold months. People would often prepare large batches during harvest festivals, sharing jars with neighbors and relatives. It was as much about community and hospitality as it was about the food itself. One interesting historical fact: in some recipes, sugar was replaced with honey or fruit juices, creating natural preserves that lasted longer and added unique flavors to the jam. A little tip: don't forget to skim the foam that rises while the jam is cooking. Removing it keeps the jam clear and smooth, giving it a beautiful, glossy finish.
Show me this aqui com as fica da. Allah da bunu da ile kuma.
Traditionally, jam was cooked slowly over low heat, allowing the apples to soften gradually without losing their shape. Patience here makes all the difference. Rushed jam loses texture. Well, our apple and walnut jam is finally ready. The aroma is incredible, and the color is that warm, golden tone that makes you want to dive right in. Now it's time to pour it into jars. One tip: always use sterilized jars and lids to make sure your jam stays fresh for months. Another trick is to pour the jam while it's still hot, leaving a little headspace at the top. This helps create a vacuum seal as it cools. Finally, the moment we've been waiting for has arrived. It's time to taste our apple and walnut jam. The rich aroma of sweet apples mixed with toasted walnuts fills the air, making it impossible not to take a little spoonful straight away. One of the simplest pleasures is spreading this jam on fresh, warm bread. The jam's sweetness contrasts with the bread's subtle flavor, creating a bite that feels comforting, nostalgic, and utterly satisfying all at once. If you enjoyed this cozy kitchen adventure, don't forget to subscribe. There's more to come: recipes, harvests, and family stories that make every meal a memory.
Le peor curva peor.
Today, we are in the mountains to show you the traditional method of making homemade olive oil. No factories, no modern machines, just olives, stone, patience, and hard work passed down through generations. I'm already pouring the olives out. Just look at how many we have. The more olives you collect, the richer and more rewarding the oil-making process will be. In mountain villages, a big pile of olives like this always means a successful season. My wife has already started washing the olives. They are one of the oldest cultivated trees in the world. Archaeologists found evidence that people were pressing olive oil more than 6,000 years ago around the Mediterranean. Imagine generations before us stood exactly like this, washing olives in wooden tubs, preparing for pressing season. In ancient Greece, olive trees were considered sacred. According to legend, the goddess Athena gifted the olive tree to the city of Athens, and that gift was seen as more valuable than any weapon. The olive tree symbolized peace, wisdom, and prosperity. Royal families deeply valued olives. In ancient Rome, emperors demanded the finest oils from specific provinces. Later, in European courts, high-quality olive oil was a luxury product served in noble kitchens. This is the paste we got after grinding the olives. When olives are crushed, they release not only juice but also natural oils hidden inside the flesh. And this brown mixture is exactly where the magic begins. Now we transfer this olive paste onto a tray over gentle heat. Warming the ground olives slightly helps the oil separate more easily from the pulp. Heat makes the tiny oil droplets combine into larger ones, which improves extraction later. I'm stirring everything very thoroughly now. It helps the olive paste warm evenly and allows the oil droplets to combine more effectively. This is the dark olive paste we've ended up with. You can see how rich and dense it looks. Deep brown.
Götürün.
That color shows the olives have fully broken down, releasing their natural oils and aromas, and now the paste is ready for the next step of extraction.
Saxla mən bunu qarışdırım. Biraz bir iki saat gözləsin.
If you enjoy these mountain cooking stories and traditional food processes, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more slow, natural kitchen moments. How I love our dogs. They're so amazing. Village life would feel empty without them. They remind you that even during hard work, there's joy, loyalty, and simple happiness in the air. Now I'm preparing the fire to boil water for tea. My wife is embroidering. It's her favorite hobby. I always think embroidery is a little bit like cooking. You start with something simple and empty, and then stitch by stitch, a pattern starts to live. If you enjoy these mountain life cooking stories, follow us on Instagram. We share more behind-the-scenes moments, traditional cooking, and village life videos there.
Peki, cama kaçsana şimdi.
Ne?
Şey.
Let's talk about olive oil, because what we're doing here is something humans have done for over 6,000 years. In ancient Greece, olive oil was sacred. It lit temples, anointed athletes, healed wounds, and flavored daily bread. People believed olive trees were gifts from the gods.
Kıymetli geçti.
Zat emeliyim ama.
İnanmayacak hala.
In Italy during the Roman Empire, olive oil became a massive trade product. Giant stone presses operated constantly, and amphora filled with oil traveled across the empire. Roman roads didn't just move armies, they moved olive oil.
Zeki zamanı.
Roman soldiers carried olive oil with them into battlefields. They used it to cook rations, to clean their bodies after combat, and even to treat injuries. Oil was practical, medicinal, and nourishing. It was life support in harsh conditions. Olive oil also symbolized victory. In ancient athletic competitions, champions were crowned with olive wreaths. Their bodies were covered in oil as a symbol of strength and divine favor.
Sama söyledi gayet. Aynen ya, yapıyoruz. İyi sen yukarıda gidiyor.
Let's sit down for a moment and rest a little. Cooking olive paste and working near fire can be surprisingly tiring, even though it doesn't look like heavy work. We want to ask you something a little unusual, friends. If you could choose one food that represents your childhood memories, what would it be? Write in the comments. We are really curious. Now we are going to filter the olive oil through a piece of gauze. This step removes tiny pieces of olive pulp and leaves only clean, golden oil. Pour the warm oil slowly through the gauze and let it drip naturally into the container below. Don't press the pulp too hard, just let the oil separate by itself. The clearer the filtration, the smoother and longer the storage life will be. By the way, if you are curious about what we use in our kitchen, feel free to visit our online store and take a look. You'll find something useful for your own kitchen. My wife is preparing to pour the olive oil into bottles. First, she is cleaning and slicing garlic. The garlic will go inside the bottles because it slowly releases aroma into the oil. Now it's time for the peppers. Pepper gives the oil a light, spicy warmth and deeper character. The goal is not to make it hot like chili sauce, just to add a gentle flavor layer that makes the oil more interesting when used later. Let's add a few rosemary branches. Rosemary is very popular in Mediterranean cooking because it releases a fresh herbal aroma into olive oil. We place everything inside the bottles one by one, rosemary, garlic and pepper. Now we are ready to pour the olive oil into the bottles. Do it slowly, so air bubbles don't form inside. Good homemade olive oil storage is about calm movement and respect for the liquid you worked so hard to produce. Meanwhile, I'm preparing to cook beef steaks. I'm pouring a little olive oil over the meat before cooking. Just a thin layer is enough. We don't want the steak swimming in oil. Of course, I add salt and spices to the beef steaks. Steak seasoning is usually simple because good beef doesn't need complicated treatment. Now I flip the steaks and add a little more olive oil. The oil helps keep the meat juicy inside while forming a nice crust outside. And now we are going to fry the steaks on heated large stones. This method is very ancient. People in early mountain settlements discovered that hot flat stones could work like natural pans because stones store heat for a long time and release it slowly. Stone cooking is believed to be one of the oldest meat preparation methods in human history. Archaeological findings suggest that early humans in regions near Levant region used heated stones to cook meat long before metal cookware existed. There are stories that in ancient times, people in parts of Turkey used volcanic stones for cooking because they could hold heat longer and create very stable frying temperatures. Well, friends, it's finally time to taste the steaks. Take a small bite and feel how fire, olive oil, and simple mountain cooking turned basic beef into something warm and satisfying. Thank you for watching, friends. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these traditional mountain cooking stories. See you in the next video. Eat something good today and share food with people you love. Today we're diving into a classic from the heart of the village, homemade tomatoes for the winter. This recipe has been passed down for generations, and every jar tells a story of family gatherings around the kitchen table. Friends, if you love cozy family recipes and a taste of real village life, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join our kitchen adventures and keep the tradition alive with us. Canning tomatoes has been a vital tradition for centuries, born out of the simple need to preserve the summer harvest for the cold winter months. Before refrigeration, families relied on jars to keep their crops fresh, turning each preserved tomato into a little piece of summer magic. The practice began in Europe and America during the 19th century, when fresh tomatoes spoiled within days. Canning became essential, allowing families to enjoy the flavors of summer long after the harvest had passed. Early canning wasn't easy. People used glass jars sealed with wax or cork, and it required precision and patience. One mistake could spoil the whole batch, so families treated it like a delicate ritual passed down from mother to daughter. In villages, canning often became a communal activity. Neighbors gathered to peel, chop, and fill jars together. Laughter, storytelling, and even music filled the kitchen, turning a chore into a cherished social event that strengthened community bonds.
Bu da düştü ha.
Fun fact: in Italy, tomato canning was considered almost an art form. Mothers meticulously showed daughters how to pack jars, layer flavors, and create the perfect seal. In Japan, preserving vegetables and fruits in jars has been a centuries-old tradition called tsukemono. Families would pickle tomatoes, cucumbers, and other vegetables in salt, vinegar, or rice bran, carefully layering them to infuse flavors. We start filling the jars, and the first thing my wife does is place fresh dill at the bottom. Dill adds a fragrant, slightly tangy flavor that infuses the tomatoes beautifully over time. A tip for you: always layer herbs at the bottom and between tomato layers. It ensures every bite gets a balanced taste, not just a hint of seasoning at the top. Did you know that placing herbs like dill and bay leaves in jars was common in Eastern European villages? It wasn't just for taste, it helped preserve freshness naturally before refrigeration existed. My favorite memory is helping my grandmother layer tomatoes and herbs. She'd hum songs while working, and we'd sneak bites of fresh tomatoes straight from the garden. That's how food becomes love and memory. Another practical trick: pack tomatoes tightly but gently, avoid crushing them, and remove air pockets as you go. It helps jars seal perfectly and prevents spoilage. One year, we accidentally packed a jar too tightly. When opening it months later, the tomatoes had burst, but surprisingly, the flavor was incredible. Mistakes can teach delicious lessons. Once jars are filled and sealed, label them with the date and content. It helps track freshness and keeps your pantry organized. Plus, it looks so satisfying on the shelf.
There's a reed gone.
Question for you, friends. Do you prefer adding extra spices like chili or keeping it traditional with just dill and garlic? Let me know in the comments. Your family's secret tricks might inspire someone else. Now I want to give water to our horse. Just look at him. What a handsome creature. Strong, calm, and always curious about what's happening in the yard. Even he seems to sense that canning day is something special. My wife is already peeling the tomatoes, getting ready to make a rich spread. Tomato and pepper caviar. Simple ingredients, yet such a deep taste. This dish was born in times when nothing could go to waste. Overripe tomatoes and peppers were transformed into a smooth, savory paste, stretching the harvest even further. In many Eastern European homes, vegetable caviar was a symbol of resourcefulness. Families could feed a crowd with just a few jars, bread, and stories around the table. Fun fact, during the Soviet era, tomato pepper caviar was so popular it was called poor man's caviar. But truth be told, the taste rivals any delicacy. My grandmother used to say that cooking this spread was like bottling up sunshine. The bright color and aroma always reminded her of late summer days. And now we're sitting down for tea with homemade jam. This is the sweetest reward after hours in the kitchen, the moment when work turns into comfort. Fun fact, in many Slavic families, jam isn't just for spreading on bread. It's stirred right into hot tea, a simple tradition that warms both hands and heart. The vegetable caviar is almost ready, just a few more minutes before we pour it into jars. The aroma of tomatoes and peppers fills the air. Fun fact, vegetable caviar became especially popular during the 20th century when people were looking for hearty, affordable meals. It turned simple vegetables into something rich and nourishing. In France, a similar spread called piperade is made with tomatoes and peppers too, proof that every culture found a way to capture summer flavors in a jar. I still remember coming home from school and my grandmother would spread warm vegetable caviar on bread, fresh from the pan. For me, it always tasted like love. Friends, if you enjoy these homemade stories and recipes, don't forget to subscribe. Stay with us, there's so much more to cook, share, and remember together. Today we're cooking with these gorgeous sweet strawberries straight from the market. We'll make a little sweet fruit drink and a healthy jam. And trust us, your kitchen will smell like summer in minutes.
Şöyle bak, parmak diyor ki parmak diye o. Yemeğe istesin sorular.
Bu çöl.
Ha.
First things first, you've got to pick the strawberries. I always go for the ones that smell like sunshine, bright red, firm but not hard, and absolutely no green tips. I also check for those tiny little leaves on top. They should be fresh and green, not wilted. And honestly, if a strawberry is already mushy, it's like inviting trouble into your jam. It'll turn your sweet masterpiece into a soup real quick. Let's talk about strawberry jam. But first, imagine life before fridges and freezers. People picked strawberries in summer and needed a way to keep that sweet flavor all year. So they turned the berries into jam, boiling them with sugar or honey, so the fruit wouldn't spoil and could taste like summer, even in winter. It was born out of necessity long before it became a treat. In medieval times, jam was a luxury because sugar was expensive, so strawberry jam in a jar was what wealthy households showed off at feasts. Royal courts in France and England served fruit preserves alongside pastries and cakes, and later in the Victorian era, strawberries became a favourite jam flavour. There's even a royal twist to strawberries. A famous English cultivar called Royal Sovereign was grown in the 19th century and was served at Queen Elizabeth II's coronation banquet, praised for its deep flavour. Folks back then prized the big juicy strawberries just like we do today. My grandma used to tell me that strawberry jam was always the first to be made in summer because strawberries spoil faster than raspberries or cherries. So every June or July, we'd race to the kitchen and boil pots of jam before the fruit even cooled off from the sun. It was chaos and sweetness all at once. Hey friends, if you're enjoying our strawberry jam journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Come along for more sweet adventures in the kitchen. In England, strawberry jam became something of a comfort food. People spread it on toast or dolloped it into sponge cakes. The famous Victoria sponge cake uses sweet jam between its layers. It ended up at tea tables everywhere. In the late 1600s, King Louis XIV of France had jam and marmalade on lavish displays at Versailles. And while that wasn't strawberry jam specifically, it shows how royalty elevated jam from simple pantry food to something served with fine pastries and desserts. Here in Azerbaijan, jam is a part of how you show hospitality. When someone comes to your home, tea is served with a selection of jams, and people will often offer fruit preserves before sugar because jam has been part of tea culture there for centuries. We call this tea ritual almudu, using the traditional pear-shaped glasses. And you don't stir jam into the tea. Instead, you take a little spoonful of jam, put it in your mouth, and then sip the black tea through it. It's such a different way to taste the fruit and sweeten your drink. In many Azerbaijani homes, you'll find jams of all kinds. Walnut, plum, mulberry, quince, and yes, strawberry too. Some families joke that if you leave sugar on the table, it's for the jam. Sugar cubes are secondary. Jam is the real sweetener. Here, the word for jam is murabba. It literally represents the idea of fruit preserved in sweetness, and you'll hear it at every table from tea breaks to big family gatherings. Strawberry, or tialak, is especially loved here. People say it's because of its bright colour, sweet aroma, and how easily it reminds everyone of summer gardens and sunny mornings in the village. While my wife is busy with the jam, I'm making strawberry tea. Honestly, there's nothing better than fresh strawberry jam with a warm cup of strawberry tea. Pure strawberry bliss, strawberry life at its finest. My wife is pouring the jam into jars, and wow, we're going to have so much of it. I'm already imagining spoons sneaking into the jar before breakfast. This is going to be a sweet disaster.
Beli çarpmasın ha.
All right, finally, let's pour ourselves some tea and enjoy all this strawberry goodness we've made together. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Don't forget to subscribe and come share more sweet moments with us. Here it's always about peaceful atmosphere, adorable rustic life and delicious food. Join us in this little cooking adventure today.
Bak sevetine geçen ha.
It's season of walnuts, the most popular nuts around the world. In Azerbaijani cuisine, we use it a lot, adding to sweet and savory dishes, bakery, and desserts. And for today, we prepared a special recipe of walnut jam. Please don't forget to subscribe before we start. For jam, we don't need ripe nuts. It's needed to be raw and green, other way the texture will be impossible to make.
Ne düşman? Hege çarpı gayet var.
It's a real smell of summer. Grass, mountain forest, and green walnuts. Their peel has a specific rich aroma with sour and bitter notes, reminding of some wild plants' leaves. Jam of walnuts is very different from usual one made of berries and fruits. It needs a lot of time, sometimes about 2 weeks, to be ready to eat. That's all connected with raw walnut textures. It's not a hard shell yet, but not yet edible.
Suya deniz suyu.
As you know, walnuts look a bit like a brain while it's ripe and cracked. That's why in ancient Babylon it was a food for being smart. People really believed that. And it's half true because walnut contains some specific vitamins. Big and important part of rustic life is taking care of animals. It's not only about feeding. Sometimes you have to do unusual tasks like cutting the fur, going for a walk, pet and clean their houses. It's hard, but their great feels wonderful. Meanwhile, it's time to prepare walnuts for cooking, and first task is peeling the top. It's not edible, and everything that lasts someday could be a real shell to crack, and we left some on the tree to get that result too.
Viu, Rano? Onze três, uma, das pernas, uma.
In ancient Babylon, walnuts planting was written as a law. Nowadays, we have its trees almost everywhere. Thanks to Hammurabi, it's what everyone can afford. And it's great because walnuts are very healthy. Walnut has a lot of omega-3, vitamin E, and influence amazing on your heart and brain. Also, it's known as the best thing to the man's health, eating walnuts with honey. Now it all needs 3 days to soak up. You can see the water becomes darker as well as hands while touching it. It's quite hard to remove, but rustic people are never afraid to dirt the hands or spoil manicure. If you like the rustic life philosophy, follow us on Insta to watch more satisfying videos. Three days have passed quickly. We were busy with our usual tasks, crafting, planting, picking harvest, cleaning and taking care of animals. Before continue making jam, we check animals and feed them. It's hard to imagine rustic family without any animals. It's about resources as well. Eggs, milk and meat that are always included in village people's diet. And every animal can be a good friend to you as well. The water was almost black, that's what walnuts give. Now we continue to check it for 2 days more, and sure changing water. It's necessary to remove all the bitterness and make walnuts softer.
Sakitçik. Kaçal muhta kaçal. Öyle kusarak üçün. Karşı kusarak Faraway aynı. Mübarek. Kaç. Yok kadın. Sana kasil hana.
Walnut has hundreds of different names. For example, someone calls it a Greek or English nut. Depends on who brought it to the country. Somewhere it's about fibers under the ripe peel, a hairy nut. The main point is everyone loves it. Fifth day has come and walnuts are as black as coals. By the way, the medicine called activated coal is made of burnt walnut shell. It helps while you ate something wrong or overdid your alcohol portion before. On fifth day, it's needed some water with citric acid and some starch or flour. Can't wait to show you the result, but be patient. The greatest things go to the one who do well and can wait. It's like planting the fruit tree. Friends, while having such a possibility, want to remind you that we have online store. Here you can find these wonderful handmade socks, rustic-style kitchenware, and high-quality professional knives. If you're looking for a present, take a look.
Kalası kalacak. Wow, kaçım bir çıkan ya da bu çıkan açıyor. Hakikaten açıyor. Açıyor, uç.
Goats' hairstyling is continuing. The thing is, they feel very hot at summer, and cut helps to regulate temperature. Goats started to be more active and have a good mood.
Идите, пачик. Томи. Ma, Tomi.
Dogs feel hot too, so a bowl of water F seems as a perfect way to cool them down. Everyone needs some care in this extremely hot summer day. After 3 days, we continue to check the walnuts. As we mentioned, it's a very long process. You need to literally change the structure of the product. And it's not fast. As well as ancient crafting, walnut jam is another kind of art. Now walnuts look like black expensive jams, and in our future jam it's going to become a real treasure with its unique taste that is not comparable to anything. We're lucky, the walnuts are ready on day 10, so today we'll finally show you the jam's cooking process. And sure, we will tell you the story of how this dessert was born. So, the roots of the walnuts are literally go to Central Asian region where Azerbaijan is. Ancestors of the humans of this region used this method to preserve as more walnuts as possible because that time it was a medicine. Time has passed and walnut trees were stared to plant everywhere. Now Caucasus and Balkans are known by using this nut. Also in cuisine of Moldova, you can find walnuts jam. People preserve it as well as in Central Asia. With a toothpick, we need to make little holes in the walnut. It provides even cooking and making sugar syrup free to come inside. Azerbaijani cuisine is famous for jams and sauces to preserve. We have a lot of different local fruits that you can barely find in some other part of the world, and as walnut jam it always cooked with traditional methods. The method we use now is really ancient. It goes from generation to generation, and we're proud to keep traditions. It's literally a taste of a history. If you want to watch more about traditional rustic cooking, follow our social media and learn more. When the water with walnuts is boiled, we're taking it off the fire and separate. As with soaking up, we're going to make it a few times. It's point of the recipe. Now the boiling in pure water again, let it rest until the bubbles come. We repeated the process until walnuts became softer. Now it's time for second jam's main ingredient. Of course, it's sugar. The more you add, the sweeter and the thicker your texture will be. You're free to choose. Syrup is done and it's time for nuts. Need to put it inside carefully. The liquid is very hot. Don't forget mixing. Sugar needs to melt evenly and go through the walnut's fiber to soak it with sweetness and delight. The jam is almost done, and it means tea time will be next. With an amazing tradition, we're going to have this hot drink together, eating freshly cooked jam and having a nice talk.
Güzel oynuyor.
Samovar is heating up and the jam is boiling. That's what partnership means. In rustic area, it's not about man or woman work. Everyone can do whatever he and she really can do well. A little hack, add some salt to the sweets you cook. It brings out the taste and make a perfect balance. In Azerbaijan, a whole culinary tradition is made on combo of sweet and savory. Look at that. Gems in a glass jar. With its sugar syrup, walnut jam looks so glossy and appetizing.
Hazır kamerayı verelim. Çağ dizlerin hazır mı? Yemlemişim hazır işte.
Just a few moments until we try this historical meaning dessert, sipping the other important thing, tea. For Turkic folks, it's an everyday ritual that you don't have to pass. Stocks to any case, from the everyday tea to important guests to come, is finally done. And for today's occasion, the jam is served in the amazing little bowl that looks so nice at the table. The jam is truly great. Aromatic, with unique taste and texture. It was really a great job. If you really enjoyed the episode, please like the video and subscribe. That was Faraway Village, and we're happy to see you. Meet soon in the next video.
야, 지금